Okay, so welcome to the first video that focuses on the introduction to public relations. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and then we can get started. So, okay, share my screen and slideshow. All right, and you're going to see me on this top little corner, but the goal is to just look at the slides and hear me talk. Okay, so let's talk about what is public relations. You may have heard a larger term called marketing. You may have heard about advertising. And so, maybe heard a little less about public relations. And so we're going to kind of get into that and we'll address marketing and advertising and all of that and how it's different from public relations as well. Okay, so my plan today is to talk about the challenges and the variety in the work that is performed by those in public relations. We will talk about public relations as a process and not just one-off event. And we will also talk about the skills that you're going to need to be a public relations professional. Okay. So first of all, public relations is a global industry, okay? It's a big industry. Okay, so as of this year, last year, I would say the estimated size of the global public relations industry is 107 billion USD. The rate is about 5 to 6% annually, so it is definitely growing. And because of the internet, obviously, you're seeing a lot more growth. So just within the US, there are about 57,000 plus PR firms and businesses. Some of them are small, some of them are larger. And you would estimate about 3 million practitioners. So there are people, lots of people working in all around the world in this particular field. And obviously, because there are so many people, we need a lot of expertise, and you're starting to see many programs offered at the university level in public relations. And those are the numbers that you are seeing here, 218 plus programs in 39 plus countries, 300 universities in China, 100 in Europe. I mean, it's there are lots of university courses that are being offered now in this field all over the world. Okay, so just some numbers as we get going for you to get a perspective on the size of this industry. So let's quickly talk about the definition of public relations. Just need you to pay attention to some of these big words. Public relations is a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between an organization and its publics. And this is a definition from the Public Relations Society of America, just one that you want to remember. Let's kind of focus a little bit on the big terms. It's a strategic communication process, which means that there is a plan to how things are done. It is a process and not an event, so it has multiple steps and it takes time to achieve some of those objectives. It builds mutually beneficial relationships, which means that, mutually beneficial means what? It means that it helps multiple parties. It helps more than one. It helps more than just the organization. It also helps the people, with who the relationships are. So public relations is a strategic communication process. It builds mutually beneficial relationships between an organization and its publics and all its stakeholders. Okay, so just that definition for you to pay attention to. It is known by different names in different industries, and we should talk about that a little bit. So, you may have heard of worldwide relationships. You may have heard of community affairs. You may have heard of public policy. You may have heard of investor relationships. You may have heard of corporate communication, external communication, information officers, marketing communication. All of these people are doing PR work. So just something to keep in mind as we go through this particular semester in public relations. So some of the words that people pay attention to, right, as you look at, some of these names here, IBM has a department called marketing communication, and it includes PR. Facebook has communication and public policy. Johnson & Johnson, corporate communication and public affairs. Coca-Cola, communication and media center. A lot of these big companies have a PR department as part of their larger organization. And there might be a group that might be just focused on public relations within that larger organization and work with some of these other organizations, departments as well. So PR may work with the advertising or the marketing department within IBM, right? But it's part of the larger marketing communication department. So just, just for you to understand that there are PR departments within all of these larger companies as well. Okay. So let's talk about this. When I was growing up, I always wanted to do PR, and my parents were not very sure about that because of the portrayals that they had seen in the media. So that's Samantha Jones, and you could see public relations executive. She's an unmarried woman. She has a drink in her hand. It looks like it's late in the night, and she's just, hanging out at the bar, people often say, well, is this PR? And there's a lot of negative stereotypes that exist in television and in film. The truth is, yes, there is a little bit of whining and dining, but that is for every, industry. I mean, you work with a consulting company, and you might still need to wine and dine your clients because, that's how you get business. Yes, there is a little bit of that in PR as well. But to be quite honest with you, there is a lot of hard work in PR, a lot of late nights, there are a lot of deadlines that you have to meet. And it goes way beyond having a drink at the bar, let me tell you that. There are big events that you have to organize, lots of relationships that you have to build with the media, press releases that need to be sent out, speeches that you need to write. There honestly is yes, there's a little bit of glamour. Sure, there's a little bit of glamour, but there is a lot of work in it as well. So just something that I wanted to share because, there is that negative stereotype out there. But the truth is that there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of work that goes into public relations. Okay. So what I'd like to tell you next is that public relations is a management function, which basically means that the work that public relations folks do help toward, the company's success. They tend to work very closely with the management and have the right message communicated to stakeholders. And when I mean stakeholders, I mean, not just people who are investors in the company, not just the media, not just the public, but even environmental groups and neighborhood, watches. And, there's a huge, group of stakeholders that need to be sort of, told what's happening with the company and what are the different events that are taking place, a lot of relationship building that happens. If there is any risk involved, those risks have to be mitigated. So a lot of that has to be communicated. If there is an anticipation of an issue, you have to be proactive about it. So it is a management function. There's a lot of stuff that we need to do to ensure that the company runs smoothly and there are no issues that become big problems. Okay, so PR is a management function. There are some key terms that we should remember as we continue with this conversation. Number one is that public relations is deliberate and it's planned. Okay, so all public relations activity is intentional. It is designed to either influence or it is designed to inform, but it is planned. There's a strategy around it. And it's super organized. Okay, so please just make note of some of these terms as they help you understand public relations a little bit better. So all public relations is systematic, it's planned, it's performance and ROI based, by which I mean that there are actual policies that that are put in place, and it's all performance based, So of course, what that also means is that if an organization has poor policies, then no matter how much you try, it's not going to help. So obviously, you're hoping that the company that you're working for is doing all the right things as well. ROI is basically return on investment. So whatever you put in, how much did you get back? Were you able to build a reputation of the company, or did it help with sales? Did it help with branding? Did it help with building better relationships? So those are the kind of questions that we ask as we execute some of our strategies and tactics. Public relations often keeps public interest in mind, which basically means that it has to be mutually beneficial. It should benefit not just the organization, but also its publics and their concerns and their interests. And finally, it seeks to build and maintain a relationship. And by that, I mean public relations is all about building relationships with the public, relationship with the media, so that we can have better outcomes for our clients and our organization. So, we have a two-way communication, we build these relationships, and we help grow the reputation of our organization that we're working with. Okay, let's move on. All right, so I mentioned earlier, public relations is not an event, it's the process. And this is the acronym that we use to help understand how PR is a process. RACE. R stands for research. So what is the communication or problem that we are dealing with? That is number one. Number two is action. Okay, so here's the problem. What are we going to do about it? And that is how we plan the program out, right? That's action. Number three, and is C, communication. Okay, so now we know what we're going to do about it, but how are we going to execute it, right? How are we going to communicate? And number four, or evaluation, E, basically says, all right, we've executed it. We've executed the communication to fix the problem or the situation, okay? How did we do? Was the audience reached? What was the effect? Like, did it make a difference? And so those are the four things. It's called the RACE acronym, and that is what makes PR a process. It's not just a one-off event, but it is a four-part process. You do the research, you understand what the problem is, you figure out how what you're going to do about it. Then you're going to figure out how to communicate that, and then you go ahead and you evaluate how you did. Okay, so PR as a process. All right, let's continue on and talk about the various aspects of public relations. Okay, various aspects of public relations. So these are just some of the areas. I mean, there is a lot more. So number one is counseling. Counseling basically means that you're providing counsel, you're providing advice to the management regarding some policies, regarding a relationship, regarding how to communicate, so that's counseling. It's more of an advisory role. Number two is PR research, which basically helps you figure out what are the attitudes, what are the behaviors of the public. And also, based on that understanding, how are we going to plan the communication? So that is PR research. And sometimes it is, we do that to influence, and sometimes we do that to just understand what is going on. Number three that you see there is media relations. So, we have to work with journalists, we have to work with influencers, we have to work with bloggers. And so we want to find a way for them to trust us, right? That they would share our stories if we were to share our stories with them. So you have to build those relationships for them to trust us more. So that's number three. And then there's employee relationships, which basically, if it's an internal communication project or a department that focuses on internal communication within the organization, well, you have to respond to concerns, or if there's information that needs to be shared or people to be celebrated. That's the part that PR people do. So that's employee relations. There's also financial relations or financial communication. And this is often to do with investor confidence and investor relationships. So people who have invested in a large company that you're working for, right? You want to build their trust as well and build a really good relationship with them. Number 5 or 6, public and government affairs. This particular one basically deals with relationships with legislatures and agencies. Some amount of lobbying would fit into this particular specialty PR as well. Then there's special events, which sometimes, you are doing a launch for a new company product, and that would categorize as a special event. Also, anything that involves dealing with the public, and planning an event, and things like that. So that would be special events. Okay, there are many more. For example, there's issues management, where there's like a crisis and you have to deal with that crisis. There could be fundraising related stuff where they need public relations people. There's multicultural stuff as well. So, I mean, the list goes on and on, but some of these were the more important ones that I wanted to share. This next slide that you're seeing on the screen now talks about the difference between public relations and journalism. So let's kind of get a little bit into that. When we are writing, well, journalists write, public relations people write. So that activity is shared between public relations and journalism professionals, right? And jobs are kind of done in similar ways. You're still interviewing people. There's still a large amount of information that you need to share. There might be different styles of writing, but they both involve writing. So yes, there are so many things that are common, but the two fields are fundamentally different in terms of scope and objective. So for public relations, we are trying to inform and change attitude for, of people, whereas journalists are mostly informing. They're not trying to influence you. They're not trying to solve a problem. They're just sharing information. Public relations is a lot more intentional. Journalists, like, think of a LA Times or a New York Times. I mean, they have a very large audience, and it's a general audience that they are connecting with, right, and sharing information with. But for public relations, we are very intentional in terms of the audience. The audience is quite tailored. It's segmented based on demographic, based on psychological characteristics. We might be trying to appease just a very, very narrow group of people who we are interested in. So there's a little difference there. And for journalists, the channel in which they're sharing this information could be the same medium that publishes their work, right? So latimes.com or newyorktimes.com, or maybe just their actual printed newspaper. But for public relations, I mean, we obviously have our own company website that we can share information from, but we can also use a variety of other methods to share it out. We might write to a journalist and have them share it out on their medium. We could share it out on social media. We could have influencers sharing information out on their platforms. So lots of combination of traditional and new media that we would use to share that information. So that's the difference between public relations and journalism. Okay, the next one that we want to look into is the difference between public relations and advertising. So let's understand the difference between earned media and paid media. So in any kind of advertising, you, let's say, would approach a newspaper or a news media, let's say on CNN, and you would say, well, I'd like to take over this page. Or I would, you go to a print or online paper and say, I'd like to pay money to put an ad in your paper. So you are actually paying them to buy ad space for your client, and that is advertising, that is paid media. But for public relations, it's earned media, which basically means that you are not paying to put an ad out there. You are writing a press release and you're sharing the press release with the journalist with who you've built a relationship. And the journalist may look at the story and say, whoa, this is exciting. It's credible. I trust this source. It's telling me something new. And I'm going to take this information and write it as an article and publish it in my paper. So I'm not paying for it, but I have earned this story from a journalist who believes in my work and trusts it and also loves how new and fresh the story angle is. When they see a story like that, journalists would say, oh, my audience is going to really find this interesting, right? And that's why they would choose to take your story and publish it. So that's earned media. I haven't paid for that story about my client to appear on a news media site. Okay, the other difference here is obviously advertisements are placed in mass media outlets, right? So I could place it on CNN, I could pay for it to be on Facebook, I could pay for it to be on TV, right? Different mass media outlets. But for public relations, it's often your own website, it's your own Facebook page or Instagram or Twitter, or you may create a corporate video and put it on your website, right? So there's a lot more of that. Number 3, Advertising focuses on potential customers, and we kind of discussed this in the last slide. Public relations is all about, very special audiences, right? It could be just employees in your company, or it could be just, specific group of people interested in your product that your company, that your client is offering. Advertising, you don't really know, who exactly is going to be excited about it. But everyone who looks at your ad could be a potential, customer, maybe. All right. If they're not, somebody else's, but that's the idea. Like, we're just casting a wider net. Finally, advertising tends to focus on selling goods and services, right? Most times, right? You see an ad that says, oh, we have this new Nike shoe that everyone needs to buy. Very specialized communication to sell goods or to sell a service, right? But public relations often is working with the reputation of the company, the performance of the company, the policies of the company. So there might be a little difference there. Again, not always, but there is a difference between how advertising tries to sell a specific service, whereas we are talking about more brand reputation, brand work. Okay. And then let's differentiate between public relations and marketing. So public relations is about building relationships, establishing trust, so that people would then eventually think we are a great company, or, we are a great brand, we are building trust in relationships all the time. But marketing is more sort of transaction oriented, right? It's a method to sell products. So PR often, I would say, is a part of the marketing strategy, but it has a much larger responsibility within the organization. Okay. So marketing focuses on consumers and customers, whereas public relations is focusing on very specific audiences, like we've mentioned in the slides before. So it's kind of distinct in, their boundaries, I would say, overlap, but it is distinct in the way we kind of approach it. Okay, so we both disciplines will deal with the organization's external relationships and employ similar communication tools to reach the public, but again, in terms of how they do it is different. For marketing, the 5 Ps, competitive marketing solutions, better packaging, lower prices, good distribution system. This is the kind of stuff that they're talking about. Whereas, we're looking at how do we solve this problem, all right? So let's say we had, we sold products and the products were defective, or something bad happened. Well, how do we fix what's already happened, right? So a lot of crisis related stuff, reputation related stuff. So it's a little bit different from marketing. Okay, but they obviously, they support each other. I mean, that's the idea, these two areas. Okay, so in general, PR's relationship with marketing is becoming more and more and more integrated based on what you're seeing in this particular graphic as well. More and more people believe that, these two, they work together in many ways. Okay, so we tend to now think of looking at this in a more integrated perspective, and that's why you may have heard terms like integrated marketing communication, right? That's what this means, that we're coming together more and more. Okay, let's now talk about a career in public relations. If you think you're a storyteller, you may belong here. Let's talk a little bit about that. Excuse me. Okay, so in general, there's a lot more social media now than 10 years ago. Okay. And because of that, almost feel like public relations is becoming more and more important. So have a close look at this graphic. This was a research that was done a few years ago. It's a 2017 research. More true now than maybe in 2017 as well, right? When asked about the importance of PR today compared to 10 years ago, more than 3/4 of people believe that PR is more important. Okay, so we are definitely seeing that social media, because of social media, you're beginning to see that PR and it's just becoming more and more important. This is another interesting graphic, right? In the next 5 years, which of the following communication platforms will be most important to enhancing the effectiveness of communication strategies? And you see YouTube, Instagram, Google, LinkedIn. It's a lot of the social media platforms that are being used, in PR as well. So as these grow and as these become important, so does PR. This is an interesting 2019 report by USC, and it's talking about how some of these tools and some of these practices are becoming more and more important. So you see the yellow is actually future work. So if social listening and analytics is important right now, it's going to become much more important in the future, right? So social listening is, you're able to figure out what people are doing online. And there are these tools that you can learn, that some of these tools you can even find on Google. You can get certified to learn. So it's a great one to, great things to do if you have any free time, understanding how website analytics work, how social listening tools work, how media monitoring works, how SEO or search engine optimization works. Content creation is becoming more and more and more over the years. So we are seeing PR uses all of these things, right? From customer relationships to influencer marketing, and management to social listening. And all of these tools, are basically fueling the rise in public relations as well. And we are starting to see that within public relations, corporate reputation, seeing some growth, right? We're seeing that the green is basically where you're seeing a lot more growth. So they're pretty close. Corporate reputation, marketing, they're close. But look at digital and online, definitely way ahead, right? So, that's the area that we're seeing most growth. And your generation might be the generation that is able to handle it really well. Even within the sectors you're seeing, look at the technology sector, look at the consumer products sector, look at the healthcare sector. You're starting to see growth in some of these areas, right? This is where PR will eventually be focused as well. So what are the essential career skills you need in public relations? Let's quickly go over that. Okay, so standard coursework in PR, right? If you're going to be in school and wanting to study it, you would need to take a class like this one, Intro to PR, where you understand the theory, the basic origins, the basic principles, and then research, anything to do with research. If you're good with numbers, quantitative research. If you're good at understanding people, qualitative research. measurement, evaluation, analytics, all of this stuff really matters. And you should be taking those classes, like take an SPSS class, right? It helps with any kind of statistical measurement that you may need to do. You need to be a better writer, a great writer, right? As good as a journalist if you want to be in public relations. Like it's one of the cornerstones of public relations. Understanding ethics, understanding how not to cross the line, understanding how to plan a PR program, how to manage a PR program, all of that is important. So you would take classes that would help you understand that. A lot of case studies are out there that tell you the best practices and how some things have been really successful. And so those are the kinds of things you need to know. And so take classes in that. And then, of course, internship is important. Like take an internship to know what you want and you like. Take an internship to know what you don't like. And definitely take an internship in PR. You may not like celebrity PR, but hey, maybe you like political PR, right? So get a feel for some of this stuff if you can. In the next decade, which skills will be most relevant for PR executives? And you are starting to see these numbers here. Social media community management, like social media is important. Digital production is important. Multimedia content creation, insight, that's brand insight and planning. So you have to be good at numbers. You must understand planning. You have to be creative. And then understand, obviously, measurement and analytics. So you can see some of these big, 39.7, 38.9, like these are big numbers for you to pay attention to. And if you want to be in this field, get going and learn some of these skills now. All right, let's quickly talk about internships in public relations. So obviously, if you do an internship, it really does count toward work experience, and companies are often looking for that. You should be able to do an internship for an academic credit, and most of the times nowadays, internships are paid. They'll pay you something, and that's kind of the etiquette nowadays in the corporations. And for them to have an intern is great, right? Some of the companies have 3 or 4 months worth of internships. Some of them are okay with a whole year worth of internships. So it's great for them because they're getting somebody to work for them at a cheaper price. And often it's really hard to find good employees. And so this is the best way. Like they worked with you, they like you, you are more likely to get a job with them after you're done with school because they know you. So that's the advantage for them as well. So there's value in an internship for students like you, and there's a value in an internship for companies as well. Salaries in the field. I think salaries are pretty decent for folks who graduate and get their first job. This is a corporate job. So over time, you will build your experience, and your salary will go up as well. And over the years, as you advance up, you will make pretty decent money. And this is a great career to be with. People are educated, people are experienced, they know a lot. A lot of them have switched between PR, advertising, marketing, and they're pretty well rounded. Okay, so I think I will stop here and hopefully got some overall understanding of public relations, and I hope it was a decent introduction before we really dig into the more serious topics. Thank you.